Welcome, everybody, and thank you so much for being here today. I know how busy everybody is, and I'm super excited to be here with you to talk about one of my favorite subjects. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Andrea Miller. I'm a LinkedIn top voice. I'm also a global coach and consultant, and I've lived and worked in 3 continents and have worked with clients now from over 50 countries, I think. But what's really most important for today is I'm a recovering technophobe. I have real issues around technology, and I've managed to get past them and become relatively proficient at AI. And I thought it would be really helpful because it's something that comes up with a lot of my clients to talk about that today, how to get past it. How if I can do it, anyone can do it. So I am really excited to do this presentation and look forward to your comments and questions and trying to make this as valuable for you as possible. The first thing I'd like to begin with is just a little AI reality check. You know, we talk about AI, artificial intelligence, and I think we sometimes make too much of it. That's the hype. We are all often making too much of it. The A for me stands for augmentation. It has been incredibly valuable for me in terms of augmenting what I already know. So it's good to just be paying attention to that because AI is really, I like to call it the smartest idiot I know. You know, it knows everything, but it can't do anything without us. Well, not as much as we would like at this point, or some people would like at this point. So it's a matter of our ability to prompt it and to use it in smart ways for our own work. And that's different for everyone. So this is why it's one of the reasons why it's so important to really start getting comfortable with it. But the big reason is because companies are using it. And if your company isn't using it now, I guarantee you they're already talking about it. They're already trying to figure out how to use it. The only thing really getting in their way probably is just a clear plan, security issues, ethical issues, just some of the things that everyone's been talking about lately, but it's all going to happen. So this is why I think this is so important to talk about now, how to start getting comfortable with something that makes us all uncomfortable, you know, trying and learning new things. So with that in mind, I want to talk a little bit about that anxiety. You know, AI anxiety is no different than any other kind of anxiety when we're trying something new. You know, this is, I think, my seventh or eighth LinkedIn Live. And I'll be honest, when I first started, it was a form of terror. And I kind of wondered why I was doing this because it's not where I feel comfortable. But over time, I've learned with gradual exposure how to manage my emotions. And that's what I want for you with your AI anxiety. You know, how do you manage that? How do we recognize the physiological responses that we have to new things and turn them into something that's actually something we can manage and live with? Because sometimes it never quite goes away. It's something I talked about at my imposter syndrome event. You know, sometimes all we can do, the best we can do, is manage these things. So, what I like to talk about within this context, and I think is super important, at least it's been important for me, is using your emotional intelligence. Now, when I first started doing these LinkedIn Lives, and even when I first started getting on AI, I'd get super nervous and start feeling really uncomfortable. And I was aware of that. I had to really notice it and pay attention to it so that I could regulate it, so that I could manage it and say this is just a natural physiological response to a detected threat that really isn't real, but my body doesn't know the difference, and have a little bit of self talk and just move forward. And that's what I want for you. I want you to start recognizing that some of the fears you have with AI, they're not, I mean, they're real, but they can be managed. They're just a physiological response that once you start using it, once you start getting comfortable with it, will dissipate. I can tell you that this LinkedIn Live is so much better than my first, and all the ones in between were gradually better for the most part. But we have to start doing these things. But part of that is changing a mental model that we all have. You know, we've done things a certain way for a really long time, and we don't want to change it. When I came back to the US after living in Switzerland and not using tech really, I worked at the UN. I used to talk about being in a bubble in a bubble. And I was so resistant to technology. And that's why this is such a big deal for me. You really don't want that resistance because it can take over your life. So the key is to start rethinking how you're thinking. Why is this an issue? What can I do to manage it and to challenge it? Some of it is simple psychology. We do, as I was saying, have to expose ourselves to the things that are making us uncomfortable. It's the ultimate irony of it all. We have to do the things that we don't want to do in order to do them. It just can be a little bit strange, but it is doable. And that's what I wanted to share with all of you, that it's a process. So I've thought about this a lot in terms of how do you take on something that you know you need to do on some level, but aren't really that engaged with and or really uncomfortable about starting. So I have this little plan. If you don't mind, I have to look at my notes because I also have no memory at this point. I always think you need to start small. The goal is start small, get some initial wins, start getting comfortable. And that's what I mean by wins, that it's okay. And, nothing is going to blow up and nothing is going to be bad. And you're not going to break the internet if you start using AI. And yes, I know some people have tried it and weren't happy with the results. And that's one of the reasons people stop. But it's gotten a lot better. And each model has a bit of its own flavor too. So that's something to consider. And then so you start small, but you need to do it daily. You need to be practicing, just a little bit, but you need to build the muscle. It's like any habit that you're learning, and in this case, also unlearning the way you used to do things. So start small and then do it regularly. And then focus on what's important for you in your work. When I talk about, actually, I'll take a little step back. When I work with my clients and I have them start small, it's usually on fun things. It's usually kind of silly things. I have some of them work on planning that imaginary vacation or real vacation. And I have to say, AI is pretty good about, doing the itinerary. And well, sometimes it's about creating a dinner menu, or sometimes it's about finding a gift for a loved one, but just something that's low stakes that you can just play with and try out. Because again, we're just trying to get the small wins. We're just trying to get used to using it. So those are the first two things. And then we start moving into the more practical things, the way it's going to help you in your work. Because in the end, when we're going to start anything new and we want to change old habits in that mental model, we need to have the right motivation. There really needs to be a why behind it, to quote Simon Sinek. We really need to, particularly as adult learners, know, why does this matter? Why am I giving up my valuable time, the things I used to do, to try this thing that makes me a little uncomfortable? I don't even understand it. Everyone's talking about it. There's so much noise. Well, try it, and start using it. And then figure out as we go along, and I'll give you some tips as we go along, how to use it better for you. Yeah, I love that, Roswana, how to start taking those small steps for the big gains in the future. It's so, so critical. It's just so important to be just getting comfortable and then to celebrate the small wins. We often forget that with the things we do. We think everything has to be this big thing in order to celebrate it. But sometimes it's those small victories that are so important for us to really acknowledge so that we keep doing it. Our brain needs to know this is a good thing. It's a positive thing. So again, to just celebrate that. And then we want to share it. Things are better when we share it. I'm actually going to do a LinkedIn Live in a couple of weeks with one of my LinkedIn buddies, AI buddies. And, my friend Kenneth Lowe, you should follow him. He's really great. And it's just been great to actually be able to share the learnings with him and build on that. So when we have other people to share with, it really, really helps. And then to look for feedback. And when I mean feedback, I'm talking about feedback even online, to find others to follow, to get some inputs and some insights into how you can do things better. And then finally, we want to build. This is not a stagnant process. I want you to be continuously thinking about, how can I get better at this? Because, one of the things about learning new things is we get that dopamine hit. And if we keep doing the same things, it just kind of flattens out. And then we're just kind of, oh, why? And it's kind of like those trainings we do that we get so excited about. And then 2 weeks later, we've forgotten. So the key is, again, the small steps, keep doing it, and just keep building on it. So With that in mind, I want to talk about the practical applications of AI in the workplace, the motivation for you if you haven't read about this so far, what people are using it for. It's really becoming so ubiquitous and embedded in so much software. If you're on Microsoft, it's in Copilot. If you're on Google, it's in Google. Well, Gemini is Gemini. Um, you can start using it for your email. And you can use it. Zoom has Zoom IQ, or there's Otter.ai to take meeting minutes. I mean, I used to do that and hated that for work, to take minutes of somebody's meeting. I mean, what a waste of time. Now you just press a button and somebody's doing it for you. And then it's great for data analysis. Some of the hallucinations that show up with content creation don't show up with AI, with data analysis. So there is a lot that you can use it for. But the main thing I do use it for, and I think most people do use it for, is that content creation and that idea generation. It has been such a time saver for me. And that's really what I want to embed today to you too, that yes, there's an upfront cost in doing this, like there is when you're learning anything new, but it is going to be so valuable to you in so many ways that it's time to start. It's not too late now. I know that there's this back and forth logic that we get in our heads sometimes. Well, I missed the window, so why bother? And no, a lot of people feel the same way. They're overwhelmed by all the noise. They don't know what to do. The hype is too much. They're waiting to see what happens in their company. And waiting is not an option anymore. Your company, again, is really thinking about this. They may not be talking about it, they're thinking about it. And they're also looking for people who they can turn to help implement it. So when we start using it at work and start demonstrating that we know it, it becomes a career booster. Or, if you don't use it, it becomes a career detractor or harmer. There was a recent couple of months ago study by LinkedIn and Microsoft where they found that 66% of leaders said that they would not hire somebody who didn't have AI in their resume. And they also said that if they had to choose between an expert, somebody with more experience without LinkedIn, as opposed to somebody with, sorry, I'm trying to get used to, yeah, even create your own GPT. I totally agree, Tyrone. You can create your own GPTs. That's a little more advanced than what we're talking about today, but it can certainly help you target in whatever you're doing. But back to, in terms of your work, 71% said that they would hire somebody with AI experience, but less regular work experience than somebody who's more experienced than who didn't have AI. AI can be that differentiator. So if you have that double helix, if you're able to really demonstrate your own skills, be a subject matter expert, and then also, in addition to that, have that AI experience, that really just makes you supercharged at work. So we really want that. That's what I really want for you. And again, this is early goings. Um, yeah, thank you, Rosanna. It's great to hear that in terms of internet banking too. It's just so many people can't imagine not using this. This is really becoming embedded in so many cultures, which is why it's so critical to be using it now before it really takes off. You want to have this time to start getting up to speed, to start playing with it, to start getting comfortable. And again, it's not that hard. Trust me, if I'm using it, anyone can use it. But I get it. There's some other issues, that you're dealing with, that companies are dealing with, the ethical issues, those concerns about whether or not the data is safe, the biases, AI is built off of our own biases. So not surprisingly, it's biased. But, we still need to be using it. And we still need to be demonstrating our ability to use it because, as Roswana says here, every industry is going to use it. So it's so critical to educate ourselves. This is really, this is what we need right now. And one of the things that people don't talk about in this process of learning a new skill, and it's something I've found from doing these LinkedIn Lives, so taking on AI as a new challenge, is success breeds success. So if you start taking this on, if you start working on it, if you know that you can do it, it gives you more confidence. So what other challenges will you raise your hand and say yes to? We really want to start taking on that growth mindset. We are in what I like to call the age of adaptability. It's something I have to say at least once in every one of my LinkedIn lives because I truly believe that is the number one skill that we need right now is that adaptability. It's just where we're at as a society, as a global workplace. We really need to be able to change with it because AI is going to supercharge that too. I mean, if you think about the level of change we've had in the last 10, 20 years, it's exponential. So the more we're able to keep up and be comfortable with that change, the better off we're going to be. The better off we're going to be in our careers and our lives. And so when we want to do that, when we talk about that in the terms of AI, it's really important for us to create a supportive AI learning environment. And for me, I would tell you that's been about being on LinkedIn to some degree. I'm not here to necessarily tout LinkedIn, but I have made so many connections on LinkedIn, had so many collaborations with folks learning about this. Or also, my learning environment includes just taking different courses and connecting with people through that. But you really want to have support in this journey. If there's people at work, people in your life, people who you feel trusted that you can learn together with, it makes for a much, much better experience for everyone. So I would really suggest to you moving forward that you find others to take on this challenge with if you can. And again, it doesn't have to be people you actually even know right now. It could be people that you meet while going through this process, while commenting on posts. You never know where you're going to find your next collaboration or next AI buddy. So it's just something to consider moving forward. Another thing I wanted to touch on a little bit because it comes up a lot is AI and creativity. AI, there's a real discussion around that right now. If we're outsourcing our brains, I often call it my second brain. Is this making us more creative, less creative? And I'll be honest, it depends. You wind up getting I get a lot of idea generation from it. It comes up with things that I hadn't thought of. And I find it wonderful in that regard, but I also am doing less. But then I'm doing more of other things. It gives me more time to do things like this. So it really enhance your creativity, but you need to be conscious of how you're using it. And I think that's the same with any new tool that we're using. We need to be aware. We need to be intentional. So why is this all so important? Some of the comments that we've had right now from Tyrone and Rosawana, I think they point to the fact that this is the future of work, or actually, I think it's the present of work. So many companies are using it. And again, just to reiterate, if you're one of the early adopters, which you still are now, if you start taking on this mantle, then you become somebody who's actually part of the process, part of the growth. And it's going to make a difference in your career. The reality is companies are going to do what's best for the companies. And right now, that is having AI come in where human beings may have previously been and really replacing that. I mean, this is, I think, really where it's going to go because a lot of companies are based on stock prices. And if you're not creating as much revenue, or if you want to create more revenue, the fastest way to do that is to get rid of some of your most expensive cost, which is your labor. So they're going to bring in AI. So why do I say that? Not to scare you, but to tell you, you don't want to be dispensable. We want to make you indispensable. And that's by, again, creating that double helix of you and AI, generating much more than either can do on its own. And even if you do wind up not having your current job, being able to do something even better or being able to start your own business. AI creates so much potential. It creates a lot of other things too, but the potential is just tremendous. But you have to start. And I'm going to keep saying that over and over again. We have to begin somewhere. So that's what this is today. Today is about a beginning. If you're not using it regularly, if you haven't tried it, it's time to start bringing it in to your life. And so we want to talk about that AI mastery. So how does that start? What does that look like? There's so much out there. I mean, I've had times during this journey where I thought my head was going to explode because there were so many platforms building off the large language models that you're just like, well, do I need this? Do I not need this? Again, going back to what I said before, start small. We want you to just pick one thing. You just want to just have that one tool that you're going to use, whether it be ChatGPT, whether it be Claude, whether it be Gemini, whether even Meta. I've only used that for image generation. It does a great job with image generation. If you need that, it gets pretty close to being pretty realistic. But you want to have something that you're working with because each has its own kind of personality. So figuring out what would work best for you and start playing around with that. That daily AI date where you're using it on a regular basis, that 10 to 15 minutes, just so you're getting comfortable with it. You start understanding, like when you put something in, what comes out of it. You find a few simple prompts. Again, there are like, I mean, I can't even tell you how many people on LinkedIn will give you a free guide, a free carousel with prompts and ways to do things. And it's too much. You just find a couple that work for you for now, and you just keep it simple and you get accustomed to it, you get comfortable with it, and then you start enhancing. Then you move forward in the process. So you're starting to build on that, but you really need a little bit more of a foundation if you want to move further. For me, what that looked like was I started taking classes. I went on Coursera, took a couple of classes there. I went on LinkedIn Live. Those are great. They're kind of bite-sized. They really don't take much time. It's again about building that understanding. I went on to Section.ai, no, Section School. I forgot what Scott Galloway's program. I've done a couple of classes there. It's just about building the capacity, building the comfort level. You guys are doing great work now. You can do this. You just need to get comfortable with this. It's just about knowledge and understanding to move ahead. One of the other things, tools, is podcasts. There's some great podcasts out there, and that's something you can incorporate into your day to day. And then the other piece is communities, and that community can look a lot of different ways. I have a LinkedIn community that I've found just from talking to other people, making comments on other sites. There's all sorts of ways to go about that too. But you want to do it in a way that makes sense for you, in a way that's going to be beneficial to your work. So that's really what I think it's all about, is really figuring out what you need in the role you're doing right now. And if you're forward thinking enough, the role you want to be doing in a few years from now, so that you're building capacity. As a coach, one of the things I talk to my clients about, the ones who want to change jobs, is about, what is that vision? What is that long-term vision? And then working backwards. What do you need to achieve it? So that's just something to be thinking about as you move forward. So what does that look like moving forward? You want to have a personal plan. Anything we do, we want to have a plan. There's data on that too. If you write it down, you're more likely to do it. Figure out where you're at now, what you need in order to get where you want to go. So again, what is it that your goal is? Why are you doing this? And then let's work backwards from that. Let's figure out what you need to get there, and then figure out the resources you need to achieve that. And then finally, it's that implementation, that strategy implementation. And whether you work with somebody like me, and please, reach out to me, DM me if you have an interest, or you just get a community, you get a buddy, you get somebody to give you some accountability if you think you're not going to do it on your own. But the goal is to build the repetitions. The goal is to create the habit. And that's how it is with any kind of new thing. It's hard. You want to take down the old mental model and start building a new one. So you're doing the things you want to be doing to be achieving the goals you want to be achieving, moving into the future. Because the more you're aware of that, the more you control the narrative, and the more likely you are to achieve what you want to achieve. So just to just kind of wrap this up, to start wrapping this up, the future is now. AI is here. Everyone is using it on some level. There's one of the other things that people aren't talking about is how much they're using it without actually saying they're using it in the office space. But your companies are really starting to think about, okay, what is this going to look like? And if you want to be part of the discussion, if you want to be part of whatever's happening moving forward, you need to start getting comfortable with it. And in order to get comfortable with it, you need to start using it. And you need to start using it on a regular basis, because if you don't, then it becomes another thing that you tried and it didn't work. And It's not how AI works. AI, it takes a lot of iteration. It takes a lot of patience to get used to it in the beginning. And then you can really start using it, and then you really start seeing the value, and I mean, it's just such a time saver. And when you move forward, Tyrone talked about creating your own GPTs, and then you can work with programs like make.com and oh, I forget the other one at the moment, but you can start creating automations to start simplifying things. It can become a real time saver. But this is where we're headed. So why not start now? I'm going to leave you with that. When you get off of this, create your plan. Put it in the comments, afterwards, that this is what I'm going to do, that I'm going to start using it now if you haven't before. And if you've been using it intermittently, I'm going to start trying it every day because that's the way to build capacity, particularly with AI. You need to get used to what the output's going to be like so that you can actually give it a better input and get what you want and develop quality prompts and really a way of thinking about it. But in the end, anyone can use it. It has the lowest level at bar to entry that any technology. It's a conversation. And I say, why not give it a try? This is the age of adaptability. It's time to start adapting. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I hope this was helpful for you. If I can be of any more help or service to you, just DM me, and I look forward to seeing you at my next LinkedIn Live. I'm also doing one on AI with Kenneth Lowe. We're going to talk about type.ai and also not using AI to create more of a personal brand in this case, but using AI to build on what you've already created. So it'll be an interesting mix of my skills and Ken's skills, and that's going to be on August 15th. If you look at my events, hope you can make it and hope you can sign up. And again, thanks so much. Have a great weekend.